Hey, you made it to part 3 of the Repay Cycle. This is where we talk more about some of the things that you have available to you to start implementing and trying to, again, lessen the intensity of you being in the repay cycle. And also just doing more of what you want and need to take care of yourself so that you don't reach the point of burning out so much so that you might think that cutting ties with your family is the only way to really get some peace, some calmness, some of your freedom back, because that's not true. Of course, there are like special cases where maybe you really do need to cut some people off, but there are also a lot of tools that are available that people haven't used or aren't using it correctly, or maybe need some help on implementing so that they could still take care of their loved ones, their parents, but not be on the brink of burnout all the time. And, if that is you, I have my Unshaken Confidence programs and my coaching, my one-on-one coaching that's available if you are interested in getting extra support. But this episode should also give you some starting points to go off of and really get you to lessen the intensities of the negative emotions that you may be feeling as you're going through the repay cycle. So I am glad that you're here, and I am so excited to get started. What I want to mention before is we want to think about your energy level as a cup, and whatever you do is water. So water is going to pour into the cup and start to fill up the cup. Right? So anything that you do, okay? So let's say your cup starts out empty at the beginning of the day in the morning, and you start going to work, so it's like half full already because you spent so much energy and time working. Then your boss asks you, hey, I need this help, could you work overtime? And it gets full more. And then your parent calls you and they're like, hey, I need you to come over because I have a question about this letter that I got from the doctors and I don't understand what it means. Like, is it urgent? I need your help. And then that gets added to your cup. So your cup is already almost pretty full. Then you don't get to do the things that you want, like go to the gym, talk to a friend, decompress and watch a movie because you're so tired. Now you have to go to bed because you have work the next day, and you wake up and your cup is actually already like a third of the way full, just residual from the day before. And it keeps happening. It keeps happening where you then have things added onto your plate, or you're so tired from before, from all the caretaking, all the work, all the whatever external stuff that wasn't quite for you happening, that makes your cup so full to the point that it's going to overflow. Right? And when that happens, it actually means you're exhausted, right? You hadn't had a chance to pour out any of the water to take care of yourself so that the water doesn't overflow. That is what I want you to think about, right? This visual of like, how full is your cup already? And if it's getting really full, almost to the brim, what can I do to help take out some of this water so that I have more space? And it doesn't have to be just at the brim of the cup either. Please don't. I mean, even when it's like halfway full, you're like, oh, that's already feeling a little drained already. What can I do to pour out some of this water so that I can, have more space as a whole, so it doesn't have to like get to the point of even being close to being full, right? So this is the idea, the visual that I want you to think about. Another way to think about it is on a scale, right? 1 being, I have energy, I'm fine, I feel rested enough. And then 10 being like, I am exhausted, I cannot do anything anymore, no one talk to me, no one give me anything else to do, I just need to be alone, I need to decompress, like whatever version of that is for you on a scale of 1 to 10. And we always want to keep it at a 5 and below. So if you notice that you're feeling stressed, burnt out, or tired about a 5 or above, this is where we want you to start implementing some of these skills. Okay, so use the cup visual or the scale visual, whichever you prefer. I like to, with my clients, use the scale just because you have to give me a concrete number. So that way, I can kind of understand what you're talking about as well. So in the last episode, we talked about you reflecting on thinking about what your values are so that you're really aware of how you want to show up today, right? Because we're changing all the time. So what might have been important for you in the past might not be as important for you currently, or maybe they're the same, or maybe more things are added, right? For me, for example, when I was in high school, I loved watching basketball. I also didn't have much to do at that time, probably. Actually, I did. I mean, I was in newspaper and basketball too, but anyway, I don't know. I just really enjoyed watching basketball, and I would like try to catch all the games on my little TV with the little turn dial, if you have those back in the day. And I would watch it in my room. But once I hit college, I actually stopped watching it as much, just because maybe I had more freedom, more things to do. Like I would actually just go play basketball all the time. At the gym, or hang out with my friends. I had work. I would go to class and all of that stuff. So yeah, maybe I just had more things to do. So basketball became like not as important of a value as it was in high school, at least in terms of watching. So things like that, right? And I know that isn't maybe always someone's cup of tea in terms of like watching sports, but I think in high school I really looked forward to that, and that was very enjoyable for me then. So whatever brought you joy, whatever brings you joy, kind of noticing that's important, because we want to make sure that we make time for it, right? If I don't find joy watching basketball like I used to, where I try to catch every game or every moment of it, then that's not something I want to add to my list of things to try to strive for, because it's not going to bring me joy. Maybe what brings me joy these days is like, if I actually played basketball, or I went on a hike, or went on a walk, listened to some music, things like that would bring me joy. So what are things I value in terms of how I spend my time? What are things that you value in terms of how you spend your time? What are things you value in terms of just characteristics or themes, things like that, right? For example, some of those values I'm talking about could be family, helping, being responsible, being resourceful, being environmentally friendly. Those could be values that are important to you. So when we're clear on those things, that helps us know what we want to add into our lives and what we want to prioritize, what we want to value. So let me pull this up here. So again, this is the Repay Cycle if you're with me on YouTube, and again, it's on my show notes if you want to take a look at it. If you know, for example, being helpful and family and taking care of family is a very important value for you, when you're actually doing the repay, when you're helping your family, even if you don't want to, or you're kind of put into situations that you don't feel like being in, or you don't want to be in, you could tell yourself certain thoughts that would help you feel better, or feel more grounded into why you're doing what you're doing, versus like just doing it out of habit. Right, so it's like, hey, I am helping my mom with fixing her TV for the 5th time because I really value her being able to have enjoyment and relaxing time, and I value being helpful, and I want to do this for her. Right, that can give you the awareness so that when you're doing certain activities, whether or not you are okay with doing them. Now, the next question then is, how often and how urgent is something for you to do, right? If fixing a TV is not top priority for you, what is, right? Is it reading that letter from the doctors if they're calling you after work? Is that urgent enough that you're like, okay, this is the health issue, that's a top value of mine too, or a top item I'm concerned about, so I am gonna go. But if she asks me for, fixing a TV, I'm not gonna go because she could go without a TV for a day or two or a week or whatever it may be, right? So you can then decide what is urgent and what is something that you want to do, and at what time, so that not everything has the same level of urgency and intensity that you're constantly repaying. And when we're aware of that, that decreases the amount of self-sacrifice that we do because we're clear on where we want to spend our time. So for example, if also health is an important value for you, how can you also make sure that even if I have to see my parents or have to help my coworkers or have to do overtime, how can I still take care of my health? Do I take the stairs at work since I have to work overtime? Do I still go to the gym after even though I'm exhausted? Or do I set another day in the week so that I go and make sure that I take care of myself so that my cup can have some water taken out and that it's not going to fill up to the brim to the point where I am exhausted, burnt out, and not able to take care of myself, right? So what is it for you that will help you pour out some of the water, stay at about a 5 or so, and not feel so burnt out, so drained? That is the awareness that will help us set boundaries, right? And I love talking about boundaries because then if we don't know what we want, what we value, or what we want to make time for, it's going to be hard to set boundaries. And then also adding in the level of urgency of a request can help us really gauge how we want to spend our time and when we can plot it into our schedule a little bit more. So when we are aware of our values and what else we want to include in our day, what things bring us joy, what things are important for us to do for our family, that's really urgent, that's important, that's necessary, that's going to help us feel less resentful, less burnt out, less irritable potentially when we're showing up because, hey, I know this is them asking me for the 10th time about fixing their phone or their TV or their laptop or scheduling something for them, but I want to do this because it's also important and I want to support them in this, but I'm going to set this boundary and do it in a way that works for me if it's not urgent, right? So that helps us feel like we're still doing the things that we need to do. We're still helping our family members and ourselves with the most important things without it just being so automatic and so expected, or it feels like you have no choice. It's going to make us be much more aware of the urgency level and then plot it into our schedule as we see fit, so that when we actually do show up, we're hey, I know this is important to them, it's important to me too, and I want to help them, and this is the time I've allotted to help them. So that will help us show up better, right? You're going to be a better version of yourself than you did if you just showed up every day at your parents' house after work, like my example, without any regard for how you're feeling emotionally, what other people are feeling, and things like that. That will help you, just show up as a better version of yourself and feel less of the negative emotions when you're doing the things, right? And this is a caveat because, like I said, as we're in the cycle, especially as adults with immigrant parents, I don't see us ever not either wanting to or being expected to help our parents sometimes, a lot of times, or most of the time, whichever fits for you. But we could do it in a way that works for who we are now, what our values are, how we want to show up, and what we find important. And those are the things that we would incorporate in as we're setting boundaries. So I hope that that was helpful. Let me know what you thought of this series and what you thought of the Repay Cycle. I can't wait to hear what you think about it, and that you start thinking more about the priorities, right? The values, the urgency, and start taking care of yourself a little bit more. Don't forget to keep the visual of the cup. How full is your cup right now? And where are you on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being burnt out, so that we can do something to bring you back down, right? If you are at an 8, we want to make sure you do something to bring it back down to at least a 7. Even a 7.5 is great, right? So if you're at work, you're feeling really stressed, you're at an 8, maybe you go for a walk before you go to your parents' house, and that'll bring you back down to a 7. What I used to do was grab myself a boba and I'd go to my parents' house, and I would feel good. I would get her one too, and then we'll just have a good time. It made me feel better if I'm tired and exhausted from work. Or, pick up your favorite food, listen to your favorite songs, sing at the top of your lungs in your car, if you're stuck in traffic and you're at a 9, right? do something to bring it back down. And it doesn't have to be really huge things. Everything that I listed was kind of small scale, but you could also do a big thing, like take a day off of work if you're really stressed out, or call a friend on the ride home. That's something else that you could do. So what can we do to take care of you as you're in the repay cycle so that the intensities of the emotions aren't so strong that you feel burnt out, resentful, or irritable? Again, if you need any of the PDFs or any of the images that I'm talking about, they're in my show notes, or you can go to heyallisonly.com/podcast and grab those there. And thank you so much. That's it for this episode. I appreciate you listening the whole way through, and I hope that you do something to take care of yourself right after this. All right, take care. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. I appreciate you being here. Just as a reminder, all information on this is intended to be informational and educational only. Although I am a licensed therapist, I am not your therapist. If you are looking for any medical or mental health services, please reach out to providers local to your area and seek out information that is specific for you. This information is not intended to replace any medical or mental health services that you may benefit from. And I hope that you enjoyed the information that was provided on the show today, and I'll see you on the next episode.